Well, I know I don't have a ton of time here today, so I guess I'll just go ahead and give you a little introduction here while people file in. Uh, my name is Mike Wortley. I'm one of the assistant professors in the exercise science department, Ph.D. in biomechanics, and I've had running as a research interest of mine for a while. But before that, I was a actual runner. I still am an actual runner, as a matter of fact. Um, and my interest in the way I approach running has really changed a lot over the years. When I was in high school and in college, it was very much about being competitive and trying to always be fast and trying to win races and things like that. But the older I get, the more I start to enjoy just sort of doing it for the fun of it. It's something I really enjoy doing. It's a big uh, part of my life, and it's always struck me as a little strange that most people seem to regard this running like it's some kind of self-inflicted torture, which seems really strange to me in a world where everybody wants to be more fit and they're looking for something convenient to do. Um, that they would have had that people don't want to do running because it might be the most convenient form of exercise there is. If you have a door to your house and a pair of sneakers, you can go out there and you can go run. And so I made this little video. I was hope I was originally gonna do it back in April in person and make you all stand up and actually do stuff, but since since we're living in the age of the pandemic, we're going to do it by video instead. So I will go ahead and hit play, share this video. We can watch it, and then if anybody has any questions, we can. I'll be glad to chit chat. So this is my advice for anyone who has always been thinking about starting a running program, but never quite knew how to get started. And so let me see. Aha. Let me figure out how to share. I'm going to mute myself. 2020 has been quite a challenge. I used to worry that we were facing an epic struggle for survival, but the big struggle really turned out to be not eating all the cookies in one sitting. And with all the gyms closed, a lot of people have had a hard time staying fit. But there is an exercise that you can do at home on your own. It's very convenient and inexpensive. It'll help you manage your weight. It'll help you relieve stress, sleep better at night. And wait, don't turn it off. Don't turn it off. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, oh no, it's a video about running. I don't like running because running is uncomfortable and it makes me feel bad, but that's what I'm here to tell you. That doesn't have to be the case. So in this video, I'm gonna give you 4 tips to help you get started with it. And by the time it's done, you'll realize that you don't actually hate running. You love running. You just don't know it yet. Now picture what running looks like in your head. Does it look like this? Leaning forward, head a little bit down, taking long strides? If that's what you think, I can't really blame you. That's the action shot they use on t-shirts and photos and race flyers and everything. So I think that's what most people have in their head when they think of running form, but that's not actually what good running form looks like. All right, I want you to do a little experiment with me. First, I need you to stand up. Don't be shy. That guy over there, he's not looking at you, I promise. Just go ahead and stand up. Get nice and tall and relaxed, and just take a second to see what this feels like. Okay, you got it? Next thing I want you to do is bend forward and just take a second and see what this feels like. Now what you're feeling is you're feeling all these muscles back here tense up. They're having to work harder to maintain your neutral spine in this position. Without these muscles, you would just slouch over. So every time you lean forward like this is your body's automatic natural response. These muscles back here tense up to help you keep your posture. So the question I have for you is this: which one of those two positions is more comfortable? Standing up nice and tall, or bending forward and trying to hold it like that? This is a more accurate picture of what good running form looks like. Head over shoulders, shoulders over hip, hip is over that foot that's on the ground, and the trail leg isn't trailing way behind. It's basically parallel to the leg on the ground. To see what this feels like for yourself, jog in place. Make sure that you keep your head up looking ahead. Don't look down at your feet. And when you pick your feet up, pick them straight up towards your hip. This is going to make your knee have to come up a little bit in the front. And your knee doesn't have to come up super high, just needs to come up a little bit. When you're ready to go for a run, try jogging in place for 10 seconds first. This will help you get that feeling of good posture. Then when you're ready, start going forward, trying to keep that feeling. True or false? In order to run forward, you have to push back. Well, I'm skipping over a little bit of nuance when I say this, but in general, the answer is false. You do not need to push back. This is an example of Newton's first law of motion in action. Objects in motion tend to stay in motion, and so you don't need to actually keep pushing back in order to keep moving forward. Newton's third law also suggests why pushing back can make running less efficient. Now, when you push back against the ground with your foot, the ground also pushes against you. And it's that force that's going to get transmitted up your leg to your pelvis and cause your pelvis to want to rotate. Now, to compensate for this rotation, your upper body is going to rotate the opposite direction. And as a result, if you're running with a lot of pushback in both legs, what tends to happen is your upper body has to twist a lot in order to compensate for that. To work on this, try running a little bit with your arms pinned to your side. This accentuates any trunk twisting you might do. It makes it easier to feel when you're pushing back. All right, so once you've been running for a little while, you're starting to get good at the posture and you're getting good at not pushing back. But now you're noticing this other problem, right? That your upper body, particularly maybe your hands, your wrists, maybe even your neck and your face, they're really stiff. They're kind of clenched all the time. And after a while, it gets to be really uncomfortable when you're running. What do you do about that? Well, I have a simple thing I like to do, and it's a little silly, but hear me out. I like to try to imagine that my upper body is spaghetti. All right, so do this with me for a second. Take your arm and just make it feel like raw spaghetti. So raw spaghetti, very stiff, right? So elbow, wrist, fingers, they're not going to bend when I move my arm. Okay, now take the arm and cook the spaghetti and make it feel cooked. Now I can move my arm and everything is just allowed to move. And this is the thing I try to picture, right? My upper body when I'm running, like this is me as raw spaghetti. Now here I am as cooked spaghetti. Just trying to let everything relax. Your hands don't have to be anything special, right? They don't have to be a fist. They don't have to be straight. Just whatever is comfortable, they can sit there. Your wrists and your elbows, they don't have to be super rigid either. They can move a little as your arm moves, that's fine. And your neck and your face should just be relaxed, skin hanging there. When you feel yourself getting stiff, I like to just take a second, feel like I'm spaghetti, then cook the spaghetti and just try to keep it relaxed. Now you might have heard that running is bad for your knees or that it causes injuries. But it is true that running has a relatively high injury rate compared to a lot of other activities. There's also a lot of things you can do to mitigate that risk. Buy a good pair of shoes for starters. Also, make sure that you start with really short runs and only very gradually and slowly over time make them longer. But probably the single most important thing you can do to minimize your injury risk is run slowly. Now that might sound strange to a lot of new runners. I thought the whole point was to go fast. A lot of people carry this fear with them that they're going to be looked down upon. People will look at them and think they're not a really runner if they're not trying to go fast.
but I promise you nothing could be farther from the truth.
Running events offer something for everyone. Yes, there are fast people there trying to push themselves to do personal bests, but there's a lot of people that are just there to be with their friends or be a part of the community or take part in this festive event that's enveloping their entire city. Running can also be a solitary activity if you want it to be. I love to just put in my headphones and go for a nice long slow run, take the camera with me, do some sightseeing. And yes, I do enjoy trying to run as fast as I can every now and then, but even if intermittent walking sounds more fun to you than intermittent sprinting, the health benefits of running are gonna be yours either way. And that's what makes this so great. Whatever you decide to do, make it your own and enjoy it. That's how I know that you are gonna love running, even if you don't know it yet.
Ooh, well, it's funny when I watched that. I think my wife watched it after I made it, and she loves to point out that I say things like enveloping. Who says enveloping? I guess I do. But yeah, that's my presentation. So I see somebody has a hand up. Is it Susan? You have a question, Susan? Oh, hold on. Is it in the chat? Oh, it says thank you. Well, thank you too. Ah,
Mike, how long are you running?
how long?
When did you start running?
I started when I was actually 16. It's kind of a funny story. I was sort of I sometimes I describe myself when I was a freshman and in middle school as sort of like the school Nintendo champ. I played a lot of video games. I didn't do a whole lot else, and I had a friend who had taken up a smoking habit over the summer, but he was still determined to run cross country for some reason. So he sort of talked me into going to keep him company in the back of the pack. But it was interesting. He ended up quitting that season, but I remember that. I remember actually, I very distinctly remember the first time I ever tried to go for a run. I'm 16 years old. It's like 6 in the morning. My high school had a really big cross country team. It was like 110 people, and the coach just puts out he puts a we meet at this dirt road and he puts out two cones. One of them's like a half mile away, the other one's a full mile away, and he's like, if you're new, run to the first cone and come back, and if you're coming back from last year, go to the second cone and come back. And I start going and I start running, and I'm in this big group of like 100 people, and after maybe a quarter mile, like I had to walk and I pretty much walked the whole rest of the way. That was my introduction to running. And the whole first month of that season was kind of like that. It was every day was just this little tiny bit farther and a little tiny bit farther. The first race that I ever did, I remember it's a 5K on a loop that I did 3 times, and there's this little stretch of maybe 200 yards where the parents could all see you. So whenever I got to the little stretch, I would book it, and then as soon as I was out of sight, it was time to walk again because I was dying. Ah, but after about a month of this, I got to a point where I could do it without having to walk anymore, and I just kept getting better and getting better, and that's kind of how I got hooked on it. So it's been quite a journey, from starting there to being. I ended up running in college and was, I was decent. I was a Division 3 runner, and I have the fun distinction of 3 years in a row being the ninth place finisher in my event at our conference track championship. So I was always like the fastest guy to not score any points, but perhaps the other really interesting milestone for me in my life as a runner was like graduating from college and sort of trying to figure out, well, why the heck am I still doing this? um, it was weird for a little bit at first, but eventually it became very liberating once I realized that nobody no longer does anyone care if I'm fast. I'm free to be slow if I want to be slow, and that was a very liberating thing to discover. I see there was a question in the chat about whether or not this could be replayed. Yeah, the video, it's on YouTube. It is um, up and publicly available. Here, let me do this real quick. I'll put the link to it in the chat. Oops, not
And
that.
also to add, Mike and Susan, thank you for your question. That the this event site will add the recorded presentation links in future. So if you give us few days, we will put the recorded presentations back to the Wellness Expo event page. She also asked another question, Mike. How
Oh yeah.
has it helped your mental health? It seems quite
Oh.
chill. You seem quite chill.
Yeah, well, I have a good life, and running does help. The run. It's funny. It's like I almost always run alone. Running is kind of my own little self self therapy session. A lot of days, it's sort of probably good that I run by myself because I have a tendency to spend, a little time talking to myself while I run. Whatever's going on that day, I tend to like, particularly if you're frustrated about something. It's like, you can sort of complain to yourself and then answer yourself, and that's kind of how I use it. I don't know that everybody uses it that way, but that's what I do. um
Mike,
I
do you find any difference between running outside, running inside?
um the running inside, like particularly if you do it on a treadmill, it can be monotonous for some people, and well, psychologically, I guess I should do two things. The two differences. Psychologically, like the running indoors on the treadmill can be really monotonous, which never really bothers me. I was a swimmer before I was a runner, so staring at a line on the bottom of the pool for an hour was kind of second nature to me before I ever started running. So um, it doesn't bother me, but I know a lot of people I know kind of hate it. Um, Physically, it's kind of interesting actually, because like mechanically it's actually a little easier to run on the treadmill than it is to run on the road, because you don't have to do the work of moving the air. But it doesn't necessarily feel easier, and I think the main reason why is also because you're not moving the air. You don't get that convective cooling, so when you're on a treadmill, even in kind of a cool room, you tend to just sort of heat up and you feel like you're stewing a little bit. So I guess my advice for anybody who, if you've got a treadmill and you like running on the treadmill, get a good fan and put it in front of you so the air can blow across you, and you'll probably feel a lot better. Um, I personally, I like going outside. I like the sightseeing. I love the idea of just being able to cover distance with my own 2 feet whenever I feel like it. It's one of the things I like.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Wortley.
Yeah.
Anyone who have questions to him, he can be found on Georgian Court website or email mwortley@georgian.edu. Thank you so much, Dr. Wortley, for your presentation.
Oh, well, thank you. And I see there's a few more questions in the chat. Like I said, if you email to me, I also put it at the end of that video. I'm on Twitter at xi Mike. Feel free to chime in and ask questions. I'm not sure if this session disappears. If it doesn't disappear, I'd be glad to stay and answer
Yeah,
questions for a
I'm so
minute, but
sorry that
that's
yeah,
okay.
I need to close in order for me to open the next one. Sorry about
Oh,
the
well,
limitation,
it's
Dr.
okay. It's
Wortley.
okay.
Yeah, I will connect Susan and you for sure. Thank you very much all for participating.
Oh, no problem. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.